I may have Brian Bresee. Please come up and share your testimony. State your name first, please.
Hello, my name is Brian Bresee. Our 14-year-old son died of suicide on June 9th of last year. The result of bullying. I want to start today by thanking Governor Sandoval for showing real leadership on the bullying awareness issue. Many leaders of lesser character in the past have chosen the path of ignoring or aggressively covering up for bullying, especially if it involves a suicide. To his credit, Governor Sandoval has not done that. I also want to commend Jason Landberth for his work. You know, I know the pain he's been through, and for him to fight as he has for this right after his tragedy, I know it takes a lion's strength when you've been hit this hard with a suicide of your son or your daughter. He's worked to save the next child's life, the next family from suffering as we have. And I'm hoping that I can help in that effort to prevent that from happening to the next child's family. And you know what? You think it's not your child? That's what I thought too. So don't ever pretend that it's not your child next. Bullying defenders blame everything but the bullying itself as the cause of bullying and suicide. Starting with mental illness. They always try to do something else. It wasn't bullying. They become aggressive in that even. Bullying and suicide is most certainly a result of mental illness. But these bullying defenders neglect to tell the whole story. Research by the National Institute of Child Health and Human Development found that children and adolescents who are bullied are at increased risk for mental health problems. Bullying itself is a likely cause of mental health issues found in bullying and suicide cases. And that truth played out in our very home. As parents, we noticed a distinct yet slow change in our son's moods that appeared not long after his 14th birthday. We couldn't quite figure out what was going on, although we did ask him on several occasions, leaving us to believe that he was just acting like a teenager. You know, you just sometimes, what do you know? I mean, you know, it's my oldest son. I'm the first-time father. I just didn't know what to think. He did tell us about some of the minor things that were happening to him, but he was too embarrassed to tell us about the most harmful aspects of his bullying. So we were unaware of how to help him. It is my hope that the awareness aspect of this legislation will seek to remove the societal stigma of children getting bullied, asking for help. Because right now, if you're a child in a school, you're going to get attacked even more if you ask for help. You just are. And I think as I hear some of the questions from the legislatures here today, they're asked, well, why didn't, why the kids not come for help? And I think it's because the slow response that the parents and the children are getting. It's actually, in some ways, they get attacked for looking for help. They get stigmatized. That needs to end. It needs a cultural change, needs to make it okay and to ask for help. And help needs to be had in a prompt and respectful manner, not with defensiveness. After his death, our search through suicide notes, chat logs, and talking to neighbor kids uncovered what he couldn't tell us while he was alive. I've got to tell you, that is one of the most painful journeys a parent will ever have to make. To read suicide notes and chat logs and go talk to neighbor kids, find out what happened. When you're that down, I just can't even tell you. We had just moved to a new neighborhood, and Samuel brought 2 neighbor kids he just met down the street to Scouts at our new church location. So we had just moved, new neighborhood, and a new church building. And this kind of is where what we're doing today, it doesn't just affect the school district and the children, it's going to affect society in general. This is a much bigger, because the things and the examples you're presenting and the leadership you're offering will spread to other parts of society, other organizations. It's that important. It's a much bigger picture. And in this case, it's the church. He brought 2 neighbors. Once they arrived, all 3 of the boys were mocked. Samuel came home and told us one of his new friends hid behind him out of fear while there. So as soon as they arrived, one of the kids became fearful. He hid behind my son. And what we came to find out after the fact is kids from church have been bullying this friend at school. He was kind of small for his size, for his age, and they'd been calling him faggot and gay and all kinds of horrible things. Kids from the church have been doing this. And because Samuel had brought him there, he was a new target for that exact type of attack. Led to him being called gay and faggot. You know the irony of this? As we knew this friend of his was in trouble, my son Samuel came to me and told me, you know what, this neighbor kid is suicidal. He's struggling. And we, as a family, decided to take him on and try to help him. We knew he was in trouble. And to friendship him and to love him. We took him to lunch. We'd get him a Slurpee, all kinds of things. And we took him to Scouts. And the irony of it is, that's the very reason that my son was bullied. Is because he took this kid that we were, as a family, helping. And he even came to me one day, and Dad, do you think we're saving his life? And I said, yeah, Sam, I really do. I think we are saving his life. That is the kind of personality Samuel was. He had a wonderful son. I couldn't have asked. But he cared about people. And he cared about this kid that we were fellowshipping. And the irony of it is, because of that gentleness, that he got in a situation where he couldn't handle. Same situation that the kid was in. He got pulled into it with him. And, I look at the mood changes that appeared on my son, and you ask, well, how do you know it was really that, And I go back and I look at when these mood changes, because they do happen before us. It is a mental illness. Started to happen, and I go back and I carefully look, and when we started to notice these things in hindsight, and it happened exactly the time that he brought these kids to Scouts at the church, and he started getting called faggot and gay, which they made sure was spread to his school, because we got chat logs on that too. He started getting called that at school. How did they get there? The kid didn't even go to the same school as him. The kid he brought went to the public school. Our son went to a charter school, Somerset Academy. There was no link but the bullying. And something, a pattern I'm seeing happening when it comes to bullying issues is just how defensive the leaders around this, of all organizations, become. They don't want to address it, and maybe they're just too busy, or maybe they're more afraid of an aggressive bully's parent as well, because nobody wants to deal with an angry parent. Who here wants to tell a parent their child is misbehaving and needs to straighten up? It's a hard task for anybody, really. Telling another parent how to parent doesn't go over very well. And what we sought resolution from the church to address this, and it's a very similar story to what I'm hearing about the school. Church leaders became very defensive, even hostile, when we sought to have the events leading to our son's death investigated, a correction made. At this point, it's not about my son. He's already dead. It's a painful blow, but what about the next child, the next family? With liability concerns and the general desire to avoid the responsibility of addressing it with the bully's parents, which is a difficult task. Even leaders of a church where a higher standard is expected failed to do the ethical thing after a painful tragedy caused by bullying. Like with many issues, society cannot always rely on ethics of individuals to properly address bullying. We just can't rely on the individuals. We just can't. We have to have guidelines and legislation. Governor Sandoval's bullying awareness bill legislates thoughtful instruction, and I did read it and I thought, wow, this is what the church needs to do as well. Not just to all organizations, to report and to make people accountable, adults and children. Legislates thoughtful instruction on how bullying should be handled, as it is badly needed in the state of Nevada to protect our most vulnerable children in our schools. I hope this legislation will apply to charter schools as well, because they have the same problems. They really do. So to ignore them or to say they're their own organization, it's not. They're getting funded by the state. They need to follow the same rules. Defenders of bullying deflect responsibility by saying that it is healthy for kids to experience bullying, as it prepares them for the hardships of life. Oh, we don't want them to be soft. It's good to get a little bit of, this is kind of the, people brush this off as a way to just avoid it, really. I have not found one person who says they've benefited from bullying. I mean, think about your own childhoods, your own lives, your own bullying. Did you benefit from that? I don't think you did. I haven't heard anybody say they have. So that's really not adequate reason to not address it. I have not found one person they've said they've benefited. Or they say children should be taught to defend themselves and pound the bully. This is another answer. All that you need to teach your kids to toughen up and just pound them and take care of it. This is not an option for all children any more than it is for these defenders of bullying to pound an MMA fighter. We're asking, how many people are going to pound an MMA fighter? It's just not going to happen. And is the product of a less sophisticated and aggressive thought. That line of reasoning why we shouldn't address this. Or, in my darkest moment, I've known it's not about the children in this. They're just children. You might think I have great animosity or hatred for the children that did this to my son, and I really don't, to tell you the truth. I really don't. To me, I don't even think about it. The forgiveness for that did not take very long at all. I don't even think about the children. I don't feel any animosity. Where I do feel animosity is adults who protect this kind of behavior, who don't address this, who make excuses. That is where I feel. It's adults who should know better. Children are still learning, and we need to make that effort to teach them what is correct. Bullies are also affected if they are not corrected. The same studies from the National Institute of Child and Health and Human Development also found that bullies are at increased risk for substance abuse, academic problems, and violence to others later in life. Bullying is not just a problem for the bully's child's family. Bullying becomes a problem for society at large if left unaddressed, specifically in the cost of caring for mentally ill and incarcerated adults. Bullying is damaging not only just the bully, but the bullies as well. Addressing bullying not only saves lives, but also is a wise fiscal choice. Supporting the bullying awareness funding is the right thing to do. A cultural change is quickly approaching that will protect children who are bullied and harmed every day at schools they are required to attend. Like with slavery or racism, humanity will look back and wonder how we ever tolerated so many children to be abused daily for so long, and the societal damage that resulted from it. Now is the time to be on the right side of history, to lead Nevada into a safer and more decent world. I thank you for inviting me here today.
Thank you.